right, out here on the Monte Carlo again. I'm going to see if I can replace the transmission cross-member mount bushings. I got the new ones here. These came from Inline Tube. That's the part number 14822. They're just rubber bushings that are held on by a metal plate. These are what came off. You can see that they are just absolutely roached. The bushings are completely shot. There's a bunch of corrosion built up on the ends. So I did already pull, actually, let's roll the window down and climb underneath there. I did already pull the cross member out, cleaned up the ends a little bit, and just kind of threw it up on top here, but it should be as easily as cutting these zip ties that are holding the exhaust up. I do have it bolted to the transmission, so I've got the jack stand, or the jack here. I'm going to wheel the jack underneath it. I'll support the transmission, cut the zip ties here to get the exhaust kind of down and out of the way. We'll pull this out, we'll put the new bushings on and slip it all back together. So let's see how that goes. Alright, so it's the next day. I'm going to start working on these fuel lines. I'm going to pull these out of the rafters here behind me. Do this without knocking myself in the face. Grab that. Bring these outside. Let them relax in the sun a little bit. Figure out how I'm going to do all this. Just stick those right there. So the first order of business is I got to get the old line off, which is running right along here inside of the frame rail. So I'm going to go ahead and start popping these off. Here we go. Just a couple of bolts. Guys. I've already got it disconnected up on the tank because I actually already installed, I don't know how well you can see it, there's a new gas tank up there set up for fuel injection. Try to set that up so you can actually see what I'm doing. Not sure. Alright, so I went ahead and got the rest of the fuel line off. I had to use a hacksaw because there's a couple bolts up on the top of the frame in here that there's not really an easy way to get to. So it was surprisingly in pretty good shape. I probably could have reused it as like a return line or something, but that's fine. Instead, we'll just go ahead and throw it in the trash. Blink. And then I've got the power wire. I just went ahead and threw some loom around the positive side, zip tied it all. I'm going to wrap some electrical tape around just to kind of keep it all together. I got to still size up and see how far up the car, because I'm going to have to obviously snake it a little bit. And then I'm going to start feeding the fuel lines. I'm going to send the feed and return together, so I'm going to zip tie those all together in, I don't know, every 12 inches or so, just to make sure that they stay together. And then I got to figure out what I want to do to secure it to the frame, and then I'll start running it and see how it goes. All right, so I got fuel lines, both send and return, all zip tied together. So I'm going to try and start routing it all through. I'm not sure what the best routing method is. I'd like to get the fuel pump regulator kind of right on the firewall there. Just throw some self-tappers into it and call it good. I might throw it into the AC box just to not put holes in the firewall, but you know, kind of see how that goes when we get to that point. For right now, I just want to have all the lines run at least down the frame rail, connected to the tank, and then that way I can kind of prepare to run the electrical and everything and figure that out from there. So I think my plan is I'm going to try and snake through there. I'm just not sure how I'm going to keep the lines, fuel lines, off the primary there, but I'm going to try and go down through there. I'll have it kind of come up along the firewall into there. Otherwise, it's just going to run basically along the factory frame rail, and then once I get back here, I think my plan is I'm going to see if I could squeeze it up through here. I'm kind of thinking that that's not going to happen, so I will probably have to go around the outside of this, and then kind of up over and right into the middle of the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I'm doing PTFE lines here for the AN fittings, and I figured I'd just kind of show a quick little how they do. So they come taped, but usually you just wrap some masking tape around it, go at it with a hacksaw just so it's a nice clean cut, or you can use like a cutoff wheel. You could use a Sawzall, but it makes a mess and it usually doesn't work very well. And these come in pieces, so I've got one of them kind of half done here and one of them I'm just starting. So this outside piece is going to slip over the outside of everything, the nylon braiding, the steel braiding, the tape, everything, and that's real easy to just slip on and slip off. You can see there's a little bit of effort, but I mean they're not like overly difficult to do. So once you get that on, there is a small metal bushing, and what you do is you take the nylon and the stainless and You take like a pick tool or something, and you just kind of fray it out so that it expands, and then you push this little bushing all the way on the PTFE. So I'll see if I can do it on this one. I just got to pull the tape off as soon as I can find where the end of it is. There we go. Let's see how much of this I can get off in one pull. Nope, definitely gonna have to go back for more. Let's see if I can just use the pick tool to scrape the last little bit of this off. Always want to try and avoid getting the stainless steel bits under your fingernails, because that hurts like a son of a gun. Well, here, let's see, maybe I could just get it to start letting go on the outside. There we go. So you take the pick tool and just kind of open this all up. You want to be careful so you don't damage the tube, because that's what actually carries the fuel. If you poke a hole in it or scratch it up real good, all your fuel's going to come leaking out, and that's obviously not a good thing. We want to keep the fuel in the line all the way through the line until it gets up to the engine. So that's pretty good. Just kind of unwinding it a little bit, round that out a little bit. Let me take that little bushing like I was talking about, and we try and get it on the outside. Oh, whoops! Try not to throw it if you can. Bend some of these back a little bit more so they don't get stuck. Not to stab myself here. Fix that little deformation, and then pop that guy on, and you'll see it gets to a point where it gets a little bit of resistance. Just kind of push it to thumb it on. You want to make sure when you look inside, I don't know how well this is going to come through on camera, but you want to make sure that that's fully seated. So I got it seated on this side. It's not fully seated on this side. So I got to see, I might have to open this up a little bit more. See if we can push it on a little bit further. Okay, cool, that'll do it. And then you'll take the actual AN fitting, and it's going to press down into the center of that. And you want to try and press that as far in, make sure that that also bottoms out. And then you take your end and you screw it down. Grab a couple wrenches. Make sure that you get it all the way tight, and then that'll be it. So I'll start fighting with wrenches on these. I'll get this other one done, and we'll get it connected to the tank. Alright, so I got the fuel lines connected. We got the return and the send. Got the electrical for the fuel pump. That's all run, so that just kind of goes up to the middle there. Pops around over here and runs up the frame. I'm still going to have to go and kind of tidy up there, so that's going to be my next step. And then I think I'm going to run electrical, all the wires just basically right along this same path. So I'm going to grab those and start from the tank side and run my way back. This is for the sending unit. I just have to run that wire, so I'll do that and touch base. Alright, so I got the fuel line pulled all the way up here, started going through, and I realized that I'm missing one 90-degree fitting. I've got a 180, got a 45, which I'm going to end up using for the splitter, but I'm missing a 90, so I cannot finish this today. I'm going to try and do as much of everything else that I can up to that point. So I got to figure out still where exactly I'm going to mount that. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm going to go through and start cutting. So I've got to cut the return line to wherever I end up deciding to mount that. I'm pretty sure it is just going to end up on the firewall on the back there. I just have to make sure that everything else is, kind of fits and makes sense, so that I don't cut all the hoses and then realize that it's not going to work and have to relocate everything. So I'm going to see if I can get that there. So I'm going to cut the dash 6 a little long so that I can always trim it down later, but at least that gets the bulk of it out of the way. I'm not going to use the dash 6 for anything else, so everything else off the dash 6 is just extra bonus, whatever you want to call it. The 8 though, I'm going to have to trim the 8 a little bit lower, probably down here, and I am going to use one of these splitters, and I'm going to have it split off so that I'll have one of each go on the back of each of the fuel rails. Then it's going to loop around. I've got this one is going to do a 180 and go straight back. The other side here does a tight 90 and it's going to loop around over here, and I'm going to have that go into the other splitter to come down into one, and that will go into the regulator, and then the dash 6 all the way back. So the rest of the 8 I'll use. I'm sure I have enough that I could cut little sections and just kind of use what I need, and if I make mistakes I should be able to make more. First I'm going to start though, I'm going to put the fuel filter in line here. I'm going to try and find a spot where it is not going to be rattling around and everything. I don't want to drill holes in the frame to mount it. I know that's what you're supposed to do. I just don't want to do that. So I'm going to figure if I could find a spot where I could just kind of wedge it in place and have it be fine. And then whatever line I cut out from here, I'm going to recycle that to be from here to the Y fitting. So it's probably only going to be, well, roughly the length of the filter minus the fittings. So it'll put the Y, kind of somewhere in this area, which will be plenty to have it go back to the regulator. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that and order whatever fittings I need once I'm done kind of getting everything out, and then I'll check back in once I got it all set up. Alright, so I got about as far as I can get right now. I've got the fuel filter right there installed, bolted to the frame. I just used some holes that were existing there, and then I got some of the fuel line made. This is the section that I cut out to put the fuel filter in, so that's just going to be right there. You can kind of see what I'm going for here. So the other fuel rail is going to cross on the front here, loop around and get connected on the other side of this. This will then go into the fuel regulator, which I'm going to put down there. I think I'm going to hold off on cutting the rest of the line right now until I get all of the fittings, just to lower the chance of there being contamination in any part of the line that I end up actually using. So for right now, I'm just going to clean up. I'm going to finish wiring the relay probably another time, because I'm going to have to get that wired into the terminator electrical stuff, and I'm not 100% sure the best way to do that right now, so I'm going to hold off on that, because it's probably going to be that fuel pump relay triggering this fuel pump relay, which will then trigger the pump. And I got to get different eyelet connectors, and I got to chop and modify this a little bit to shorten up some parts of it and everything, so that I'm just going to deal with another time. I'm probably going to call this the end of the video for now, just so I could put something out, and then I will work on getting the rest of this put together, wired up, get the fuel system all done. I'll probably do the rest of it off camera, but you kind of got the vibe of what I was going for here. Once I get the rest of the fuel system done, I'll start another video where I've got to get the power steering lines, and I've got to get those adapted to the LS style power steering pump. I also have to get the water pump on. I've got to get the radiator in. I've got to get the shroud in. But we're pretty close to starting up here. Not a lot of stuff really left to do. One thing which I'm not sure how I'm going to resolve this yet is the transmission is sitting way higher than I was expecting it to. So as you can see, it's quite a bit through the floor, and where the slip yoke is coming out of the transmission, I can't even put it here. So I did mark, there's a couple spots here where I could actually cut this back a little bit further, and that would open that up a little bit, where it would allow this to kind of sit on top, but that's still sitting a little too high for my liking, so I want to try and figure out a way to lower it down. I'm going to do a little bit of research and see what the best way is to do that, and then I'll figure out implementing that. Otherwise, like I said, that's going to be it for this video. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next one.